Welcome to Sportex. We talk sponsorship and all the deals that are made on a daily basis in this ever evolving and vibrant industry. Sportex is hosted as a content channel on TalkX TV. I'm Hero Davids, and today I'm joined by Kyle Nell, Managing Director of Treble Group, a company that is a strategic sports marketing agency that specializes in rights commercialization, sponsorship activation, and communications for leading global brands, in particular in the sports and entertainment industry. Welcome to SponsorX, and let's start off by telling us how you got into the sports and entertainment sector, and were you deliberately targeting a career in this sector? Welcome, Kyle.
Thanks, Garrett. No, I wasn't targeting a career in this industry. I was working for a global management consulting firm at the time, so around 2002. And again, current CEO Rian also approached the business and said, "Listen, we sort of 10 years into our first broadcasting deal as sport had become professional, and at that time was the News Corp deal around South African rugby." So all of that sort of scenario, and he approached the company and saying, "Listen, we need to sort of put a 5-year business plan together." And I was then part of a 3-man team. One of the gentlemen is now the CEO of one of the premiership clubs in South Africa. And there was sort of 3 streams. There was one looking at governance structures for the future, sort of setting up the business. I was lucky enough that there was a commercial stream, which I picked up. And then there was looking at the underlying structures of development and all that. So, that came about, and that, as it is, a 6-month became a 9-month project. And at the end of that project, typically in consulting companies, there is a restraint on you going across and working for a client. But Rian went, "That's great. I love the 115-point plan and the big consulting thesis that you guys turn out. We need the expertise to actually, bring this plan to life." And that's sort of, I'd resigned from the company. I was planning to come to the UK and do other things at that time. And then I went home sheepishly to my wife and went, "Who wouldn't like to work for the Springboks? And can I just do this for a period of time? And then we'll go to the UK." And that the rest was history, right? Then I got approval and joined Rian the team, and then sat in SA Rugby for just over 7 years, sort of, working, structuring the commercial side from the licensing to the sponsorships to media and broadcasting. And there was a big evolution in that space. And then, yes, just around Lions Tour, and we had a little tournament called 2010 coming to South Africa that I thought I could realize some of my own opportunities, and moved away from SA Rugby to realize those.
And so the trajectory from there onwards?
So from there, I obviously built up some relationships. So 2010, I did some consulting projects on my own, and then Selwyn, who's then at the time who had started Treble in '99, sort of approached me and said, "Look, at succession planning, where what is he thinking in terms of where do I want to take it?" And I was probably a bit young and bullish. So I was like, "I want 50% of the business, and I want the latitude to make these decisions, etc., etc." Getting all ready for a big negotiation, to which it was like, "Okay, come and join." So I joined Selwyn in 2010, and then really have redirected the business in terms of, and just had sort of a clear structure in terms of what our offerings are. And I think we were fortuitous then in terms of a couple of the deals that we were working on sort of grew and worked for us, that we were able to establish and then build a team. And that's literally what we've been doing over the years. So one of the things I was conscious of in the industry is there was getting feedback where, you would sell or structure a partnership, and then you would hold that relationship, and in 2-3 years time, definitely make sure that relationship's strong enough because you're doing a renewal. And what I was going, just conscious of the size of the market and us being sort of Cape Town based, is I wanted to say, "Listen, if I'm going to take you into a space, absolutely you have the latitude to work with your own partners and agency, but increasingly stuff's becoming so digital, and you've got to have a feel for the sport that you're involved in and the space you're in. We're quite happy to work with you to shape that opportunity, but then work with clients to actually maximize that opportunity." And almost our money where our mouths are. So we've stayed sort of boutique in that space and literally want to do the full 360. And we've built an eventing capability and a digital capability to complement that. So we've layered as we've grown. And then, yes, where I ended up now was sort of, COVID hit. Everyone was rebuilding. Everyone was holding their businesses. And I was looking at the chessboard and going, what pieces are we moving? And I can rebuild like everyone else is in the SA market. But rugby, we could see, was going north to south. It was the same passions. And I'd spoken to some international agencies and gone, I don't think they're really worried that Treble's coming to the UK. They've got their own issues at this point in time. So we decided to move some chess pieces on the board and restructured the SA business. We brought on 4 or 5 partners here in the UK and now really operating up the north-south divide. And they've got a couple of sort of key vertical industries we're working in. It's slightly different offering. In the UK, I'm not trying to become an event business. I'm not trying to become, do a lot of the services and the full activation, because there's big established businesses here. So here is a lot more strategic in terms of structuring and putting those opportunities together. Advisory work. We've got the full solution in SA, but that's by the nature of that business. Here, it's a whole different game. If you're going to try with the capital, you're going to require to build that. Maybe down the line, but at this point in time, no.
Yeah, no, great. So just for our viewers, what is a typical day like for Kyle as MD in this business?
Obviously, there's a time difference. At different times of the year, it's great. Sometimes it's 1 hour, sometimes it's 2. It's normally the first couple of hours I'm touching base with the SA practice. Where are we? What are we doing? Staying abreast of that. So it still feels like I put probably a bit too much time into that, but that is the established business that's been reliant for 15 years on. Let's make sure where's Kyle? What's his thinking at? So that's still the growth of the team in terms of where it is. But no, it's invariably I'll touch base then in terms of just where it is from an SA perspective, and then from a UK perspective, then we have a team here from an advisory and from a sort of a brokerage perspective, but sponsorship sales side of teams. That is a mix, right? Whether we're actually engaging with specific brands. London's only 40 minutes away, so it's twice a week down in London speaking to brands. And then, as I said to you, the market is so big here that we've effectively put ourselves in 3 verticals, and there's rights holders that you can't see them once every 6 months and think you have a deep relationship and an element of trust and know what's going on in their world. So it's a mixture then of sitting with rights holders, understanding what's going on, and actually then trying to understand those opportunities from.
Yeah. So talking about rights holders, so the relationship and the consolidation of that, what is currently the top of mind for brands before they say, okay, let's put pen to paper and ink this deal between themselves and the rights holder? What is it that's on top of mind for them?
Look, it's different. So it's not easy just to say generic. Everyone is different. I can talk to an example now. I think some of the global brands is my experience. So the really big brands, right? And if you look at what's happened around Euros and the Olympics, and that there are some brands that are looking for the right partnerships at that level, that they then leverage or disseminate those rights down into the regions to use. And you can look, I think Lay's as an example, announced there when they what's at the meeting of legends with Messi. So that will be a deal done at a global level that all the regions then use that IP, use that content and that access. That decision making doesn't sit down. So depending on the size of the business and what you are, there's different criteria that influence, right? Then it comes down in my world to properties that talk to regional reach. So you sit with guys and sort of brands that will be going, great. If it's Africa, it's football, we know that, and it's the Premiership is so strong in terms of what we want to play. But when do I get to touch it and do it? It's great that I can have the logo. Is there something more I can do with them, which becomes a bit harder? Then we move to Formula One, which is, I think, has just made a step and a big differentiator from the likes of the Premiership, is where 23, 24 time around the world, it comes to you. So you get up in now. That's a different brand, a different objective, but it's like, not everyone's going to get to Manchester and Liverpool and into the center of London to really make it work for them. It becomes hard work. Whereas now, if you're sitting in the States, we've got 3 Grand Prix that it's on your doorstep that you can use this property and it can work. So there's a slightly different sell and benefit that if you would be talking global football versus whether you'd be talking the likes of Formula One. And then for us in the space of rugby today, which is just our bread and butter and where we've come from, we're now able to have an international conversation stronger than just economically the Southern Hemisphere market, the North-South market. So it is geography, it is intent, it's what it's doing, and then it's price point, right? It has to be, we increasingly working with brands that need to understand the business case. And I'm finding Formula One are really good at that. So
Right.
they are, yes, there's some guys there that are, because the numbers are so big to get exposure. But when you're sitting with the Formula One teams, understanding their tech requirements, which you can imagine is massive, the data analytics. When you really break down, I had a conversation around AI the other day, and you go, "Oh, how's that really gonna affect?" And the guys are going, "Look, do you know how expensive the technology and the wind tunnel, and a lot of this now, when AI technology steps in and those forward algorithms and all that, it becomes extremely important to our business case." So you start understanding, even that starts coming in, that hang on. So I can pick up all that business and I can be a partner. That's a big conversation. And then the business has the case study to tell the world, we Formula One or Ferrari or Alpine or Aston's partner in this proof of case. So those are all the elements that are coming into it, as well.
Yeah, thanks. So you covered quite a number of points in that response there. Just lastly, what are the kind of trends, in short, that you see on the horizon that would kind of be guidance to rights holders and brands to say, this is how a future sponsorship deal would look like?
I think clarity of structure has always been there. When you speak from an amateur sort of rights holder through to an SA Rugby are doing the same at the moment, where they're re-looking at their entire program currently and getting that clarity of structure back in. It's the same again, when you're dealing with sponsors and brands want to know where they fit in. So that element in terms of where it is important. I think specifically down to rights, people who operate in the industry, we understand what the inventory list typically is, in terms of the kinds of things you can structure. What I'm seeing more and more is that the rights holders having to really do a bit more homework and get closer to the brands to showcase the benefits and why they should, you should be partnering with us. And that's really what I'm seeing as the difference. There's a lot of deep expertise, specifically in the Northern Hemisphere, which I've picked up, where sitting in the commercial team of Formula One, never mind you just understand sports and the marketing element, but there's engineers sitting there. If you're going to sit and someone's going to come across having it, best to be able to talk about the car, best to be able to talk about this person's world. So there's almost an industry expertise that's going beyond the rights holders. We really like rugby and we're really good about it. Well, if you're in the business space, you've got to be able to have a business conversation and have an intel and intellect beyond just your team. And that's been really impressive here. You're coming across some really clever, intelligent, deep skilled sitting on the rights holder side. And obviously that's probably the big brands who can afford it, right? But to differentiate themselves, that's what it is. Then you do get down to the smaller, that it's still what we used to. But that I am seeing more and more. If you want to sit at the big table and do a 15 million or 20 million deal with some global business, the team that's driving that must be able to have a realistic and a deep skill in a conversation. So skill set I see definitely as a big sort of trend in the industry.
No, great. Thanks for that input, Kyle. I think it will be appropriate to call for a longer conversation or call it a masterclass in the near future, because we've just scratched the tip of the iceberg in this conversation. So that was Kyle Nell, Managing Director, Treble Group, talking to us about what it takes to run a sports and entertainment rights commercialization agency around the world. Thank you very much for your time, Kyle, which is appreciated. And that's where we would leave it for now. Until next time, thanks for watching SportX.